Avodah Zarah, Perek Rabbi Yishmael Daf Nun, sponsored the Refuah Shlema for Yair Rafael ben Shulamis. We begin with the Mishnah. Stones found near Marcellus. He is Mercurius. Mercury, in Roman mythology, either depicted by a human form with an upraised arm, or more crudely, a tripod of stones. Passers would throw stones at it either to worship or enlarge it. The Mishnah brings a dispute concerning the status of stones next to it. Rabbi Yishmael prohibits the use of 3 stones next to it, but permits the use of 1 or 2. The Chachamim are not concerned by the amount of stones, but if appear to have fallen from the pile. Explanation of the dispute. Number 1. Rabbi Yochanan explains fallen stones from the pile are prohibited even according to the opinion idolaters do not worship fragments because it is common for them to fall. Their dispute is when their distance from the idol makes it uncertain if they fell from the pile. This doubt arises when they are more than 1 cubit and less than 4 away. Rabbi Yishmael holds a secondary Marcellus was erected next to the primary. Unless it is certain the stones originated from the pile, only finding an amount of stones resembling a Marcellus is prohibited. The Chachamim hold it is not customary to erect a secondary Marcellus. The only factor is whether the stones appear like they fell from the pile. Number 2. A Brisa states Rabbi Yishmael prohibits 2 stones bitfis achas, within a single grasp, whereas the Mishnah states 3, a distance shtei tfisos. Both opinions agree stones within 4 cubits are prohibited unless there is an obstruction between them and the Marcellus. Rabbi Yishmael holds 3 are prohibited even not shaped like a tripod because it was common to make a secondary one next to the main, whereas the Chachamim hold only those within 4 cubits are prohibited. Idolaters erected a Marcellus from ruins of King Yanai's house. Idolaters who did not worship it removed stones to pave streets and highways. Some Chachamim refrained from walking on them. The reason: a verse states, "Vayitzamdu leBaal Peor vayochlu zivchei mesim." An idolatrous offering is like a dead person. One can never benefit from a dead body. Similarly, one can never benefit from an idolatrous offering. The heaped stones were idolatrous offerings that cannot be nullified. Other Chachamim did not refrain from walking on them. The reason: it is not an idolatrous offering unless it resembles something offered in the temple. Stones used for paving, one can walk on them if a non-Jew who can nullify an idol pave them. However, one cannot walk on them if a Jew who cannot nullify pave them. The Gemara digresses to compare laws of the sabbatical year to Chol HaMoed. During the sabbatical year, one can pick worms from a tree or apply something rancid such as dung and wrap it to prevent exposed parts from drying out, but not during Chol HaMoed. Pruning is prohibited during both the sabbatical year and Chol HaMoed, but smearing a pruned branch is permitted. The reason: principally, working the land during the sabbatical year, improving it or trees, is prohibited. However, work to preserve them is permitted. Chol HaMoed is to some extent Yantiv. One is prohibited to do any work that requires excessive exertion. Therefore, number 1, during the sabbatical year, one can apply something rancid to preserve it. He cannot prune to strengthen it. Number 2, just as there are 2 types of hoeing, one filling cracks to prevent roots from drying out, permitted. Hoeing to remove excess dirt, allowing more air and water, is prohibited. Similarly, application of something rancid is sometimes to preserve and sometimes to strengthen. 3, smearing oil on a pruned branch is permitted. Smearing oil on fruits fattens them and is prohibited. An idol normally worshipped by shaking a stick, instead broken or thrown in front of it. General rules. Number 1, one is liable for worshiping an idol in its common form of worship, even disgraceful. Number 2, one is liable for service done in the temple to an idol, even if it is not done in its common form of worship, such as slaughtering an animal, burning an offering, pouring a libation, or sprinkling blood to an idol. Rav adds, even if the action is suggestive of a service in the temple, such as breaking a stick resembling breaking the neck of an animal through its slaughter, but not throwing. Question: why is throwing the stick not like Zerikas Adam, throwing, sprinkling the blood? The answer: One is liable only for throwing that breaks it into little pieces, like sprinkling blood breaks into droplets. If you're enjoying Daf 5, please click on the link below, subscribe, and become a sponsor. Thank you. Have a good Shabbos. Shabbat Shalom.